All right, Rob, let's get it started with Team USA was announced this week. Let me give you the team. I mean, it's star-studded. Real talk, like on paper. I mean, obviously we've had the Dream Team. This and the Redeem Team. This team is serious. LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday, and Kawhi Leonard. Missing one of the top players from America who is missing, and there are several, is Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie was asked about, why he wasn't on the team. He was on the team in 2016 that won gold. And, of course, Kyrie is a fantastic player and would have been worthy of being on the team. But here's what he said.
I wish my brothers well, and I just didn't fit into this team, and I think the deliberation process was a tough one. But again, I have nothing but respect for those guys over at USAB. At this point in my career, I think my focus should be on winning the championship and, in the summertime, just going to support those guys when I get a chance. I grew up in a time, too, I wanted to say this, I grew up in a time, too, where we actually had to try out for USAB, and we did meet up as a group and as peers, and there was a mutual respect that we earned from one another and trying out and then seeing what five meshed well. So I think obviously the timing's a little bit different, but yeah, I kind of miss those days of just being able to get everybody together, break bread, and then compete against one another, and then the deliberation process happens at the end of like the 4 days or 5 day process, even though people know who's going to be on the team, you know what I'm saying? So I miss that fun part of it, of just getting together, but I wish my brothers well.
Because he's like, I would have been breaking ankles. Ain't no way they would have left me off the team after I was wrecking shop. But no, that was a very polite and solid answer from Kyrie.
I agree. I said that to Rob G earlier. I just said, what a mature answer.
Yep. No, I have no issues. What I'll throw at you is this, Rob. Do you think, we know Kyrie has had, obviously, a lot of issues off the court, a lot of controversy off the court. This year, he's been great. There's been no issues. I will say this, though. We obviously know what's going on over in Israel and Palestine. And Kyrie, who has been a vocal supporter of the Palestinians, he wore, and I may mispronounce this, so please forgive me if I do, a keffiyeh. Keffiyeh is Keffiyah. It is a headgear that is a sign of Palestinian solidarity. He wore that to a game when the Mavericks played the Bucks in November.
Mm-hmm.
And he wore it to the game, and then he wore it after the game during his press conference. And Rob, and this is we don't have to get all into this, but you and I talk about this. Nobody asked him about it. Nobody asked him why he was wearing it, and he didn't volunteer it. So it was just like people look at it, okay, that looks like that's a sign of Palestinian solidarity. And so that is the game? Only in November.
Where was it? I'm just curious.
I think it was Dallas.
If he was in New York, they would have asked him about it.
Yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean?
It was either Dallas or Milwaukee.
You know what I'm saying, Chris?
Yeah,
they would have asked him about it.
I mean, a lot of places. Honestly, I mean, I don't know how you don't ask him. That's not an usual thing that somebody wears in America. So
you would just say, what's up? Right. What's up with that?
Do you want to, I see your headgear, Kyrie. Do you want to explain why you're wearing it or whatever?
Is that fashion?
We haven't seen you in that. We haven't seen you in that before.
Is that a fashion statement, or are you making a statement?
Yeah.
Seriously, okay.
So, but that's the, he caught a little flack on social media from Israel people, Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also got some support from Palestinians and some other Muslims and people that support Palestine. So that's the only thing, Rob, that, is even remotely controversial with Kyrie this season. It's possible that, Team USA, USA Basketball just was like, look, we don't want, aren't predicting Kyrie would do something, but we just don't want any controversy. Right. We don't want any controversy. And the bottom line, Rob, I can name a lot of American players that could say Well, I could have made that Donovan Mitchell.
Right.
Jalen Brunson, Damian Lillard. You know what I mean?
So it's not
John
just
Moran,
the Kyrie.
Right. Zion, Paul George, Karl Anthony Towns, Draymond Green, De'Aaron Fox. So I honestly don't know if that played any role. I think it's possible, but it also is possible that they just, it's a solid team. I mean, you can't really criticize the roster.
Yeah, I it's always got to be a part of everything in the evaluation, and I don't doubt that it was thought about, Chris.
Yep.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's the ultimate, but we just you already know Kyrie and his beliefs and what he wants to do and his activism and all that is a part of who he is, and he's expressed that. And so I think that in these delicate situations internationally or whatever, they're always going to opt for the safest route. That's just how it is. It's always been done that way, not just to Kyrie. And you know what? I'll say this. And you don't know how things turn out in life. If somebody would have told you, Chris, that Muhammad Ali would light the Olympic torch for the United States back in the 60s when, when he was changing his name and just
changed his religion, changed his name,
and just
exiled from boxing.
You know what I mean? Yeah, everything where his life was being changed, and he was living a different life that most people didn't live and weren't quick to acknowledge or change. You know what I mean? And yet he wound up being an American hero. So you just never know how things work. In the moment, though, he wasn't embraced. In the moment, and that's kind of like the Kyrie thing. You might not be embraced now, but you don't know down the road it could. And so sometimes you just have to follow your heart and do what you believe is right. And then that might mean you're going to miss out on some things. And then again, you might have a conscience of being able to sleep at night because you feel like
you stand up for your beliefs.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah. When you take stands like this, it's wise to count up the cost.
Because they're all costs, right?
Wear this, yep. I want to wear it. I do support the Palestinian people. I want to wear this. Okay, some people not going to like it. I might be asked about it. I might be criticized for it. It could cost me in other ways, but I really want to do this. I've taken stands, Rob, for my faith, and I count the cost, okay? But I'm willing to live with that cost, and I think it's wise. You know what's interesting, too? You bring up Ali. Let me make 2 points about Ali. One, Rob, and this really separates him from just about every other athlete who has been outspoken. In that, Rob, and I think we all forget this. We tend to forget this when we think about Muhammad Ali. When he, would not go to fight in Vietnam because he disagreed with the war, and he lost his heavyweight title and was exiled from boxing for 3 years. Rob, for all he knew, he was never going to fight again. You know what I mean? It's not it wasn't guaranteed. In 3 years, you'll be back. No. You know what I mean? Or we'll see if you can fight again in 3 years, or, you're just being suspended from boxing for 3 years. For all he knew, everything he had worked his entire life for was gone.
Went up in smoke right then and there.
Right. So that's a heck of a sacrifice. Now, I'm going to get Colin Kaepernick somewhat made a similar sacrifice. It has cost him his career, his stance. And so that's similar.
And his stance was so just. I mean.
Oh, yeah. Both of them were just.
Were so just.
No question about it.
But
he tried to be respectful about it.
Yep.
With kneeling. He actually talked to an Army, veteran about that.
But the
or military veteran.
Ali thing, Chris, back then to be a draft dodger, right? Not taking part in the draft.
Right.
And then light the Olympic torch. I think what a turnaround. Am I right?
I think it's great, but I also think there's a history. I think it's great. I was there in Atlanta.
In 96 in Atlanta? Were you there the day of the
I
bomb?
covered the Olympics. Yep, I was there
Wow.
for the bombing and when Ali lit the torch. I was in the stadium. But there has been a history, Rob, of America embracing African-American freedom fighters, either once they're dead or in Muhammad Ali's case. Now, he was, popular in the 70s when he was still fighting. Obviously, there were some that didn't
he was
like
popular,
him as well.
yeah.
But it was like once he, when his Parkinson's really kicked in and he no longer, obviously wasn't verbal, wasn't really able to talk about these issues anymore, and really wasn't, someone who could, because of his health, really talk about a lot of these causes anymore and the things he had talked about before. And then he was wholly embraced. So there is a history of that too. I don't want to take away from Ali, but yeah, that needs to be said though. All right, 877-99 on Fox. I think, like you said, Rob, I think that was something taken into consideration for Kyrie.
I do.
But it's hard to argue with the team that they selected, and other players will have an argument as well.
But maybe some people believe that's the only reason. Let's hear it.
Let's hear what you guys have to say.